All right, hey everybody. How about a time we talk about a time when we fought against tyranny, right? So let's get back to more of the life and times of George Washington. So we're looking at the period after Valley Forge, and discipline becomes unavoidable at this point. Not because morale was high, but because it wasn't. And Washington understood that survival required a degree of order, even when loyalty towards him was a bit uneven. And so the Continental Army as a whole wasn't really unified. The veterans of the Army kind of resented the new recruits, and state units, well, they distrusted one another. It's like, hey, oh, you're from Virginia, huh? Well, in addition to that, short-term enlistments were starting to undercut long-term commitments. Discipline had to fill the gaps, and it filled the gaps wherever loyalty was failing. So Washington tightened down on just enforcement of order. Orders were clearer, the punishments were enforced, expectations were repeated again and again and again. And, well, of course, this is going to create a degree of resentment among the men. Men who had endured the winter hardship began to look at all the stricter rules, and officers began to argue over who had the authority to control. Then you had the state loyalties that were being pulled against the control of the Continental Army. And Washington didn't romanticize this. He acknowledged that obedience did not equal belief. And some soldiers followed orders because they had to, not because they were convinced. And that really mattered, because an army built on uneven loyalty could still function, but only with constant pressure. And so Washington balanced firmness with restraint. If you were too harsh, well, then desertions would spike. If you were too lenient, well, then discipline collapsed. And there was no real perfect equilibrium, just daily correction. And so this was leadership that was measured in enforcement, not necessarily inspiration. And as discipline tightened, the revolution moved forward with an army that obeyed more than it believed. And it held together not by a shared certainty, but by structure and routine and the constant effort to keep resentment from becoming any sort of refusal.